Hey everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here with a fall card. I think we're eventually going to get into fall. So these are the products that I'm going to use, and I'm actually trying out a lot of them. The Hero Arts liquid watercolors. Can't wait to dig into those. I'm using a watercolor block from Dick Blick. Very reasonably priced. It's a 7x10. And again, it is a block, so you've got that glue along the side. I just use one of my palette knives. I get this from I got this from Tonic Studios, and I just cut along the edge. These pads are very reasonably priced. Now this is cold press. They also have them in hot press as well. Difference between cold and hot press, you may ask? Think of it this way, and somebody else said this, so this is the best way that I know. Cold, bumpy. Hot, you use an iron. So, hot presses it out. No wrinkles, no bumps. Cold, it's bumpy. Yeah, I forget who said that on YouTube, but that's where I learned that from. So you just have more texture in a cold press than you do for a hot press. So with these, what I'm doing is I'm using my Versamark ink, and I'm stamping these leaves. Now these leaves are from Stampendous, and I love their stamps. I actually have a lot of them. I love the size. I love the details that they give when it comes to some of their stamp sets. When it comes to their florals, I'm pretty much with them. I have the sunflowers and the hydrangeas and all of that. I'm using my Versamark ink because we heat emboss these with gold powder because I just want that accent. Now, I'm going to tape these down to one of my boards, and yes, because I applied heat, I'm impatient. It does warp a little bit, but that's okay. That's why we use the tape. I do like the wider painter's tape, and when it comes to painter's tape, I will always get true painter's tape. I have tried the painter's tape from the dollar store. It's not the same. So now that we have that all taped down, let's take a look at these Hero Arts. I have been getting them ever since they came out. I just put a couple drops in my palette there. So far, they have 15 colors that are out. They just released an orange. And what's great is, well, at least for me, it's great. They're releasing a new color when they launch every one of their monthly subscription kits. So that's how I've been building up my collection. I'm using a number 4 black velvet silver brush. I do also, there are other brushes that I use. I use one, I believe it's called Minka, in all sizes. I also do like the Ranger brushes, and I also do like the Nuvo brushes, the Tonic Studios brushes. So those are the ones that I have in my collection. The technique that I'm doing here is a wet on wet. I am applying water into the area, and I'm literally dropping my colors in. One of the things I love, if you watch when I put down that color, and if it's a new leaf, watch how it travels. I just love watching that process. I know. It's also like some people who love to watch embossing powder liquefy with the heat gun. I love watching this. I could do this all day. And to me, that's what I like to do with watercolors. I am in no way a watercolorist, but I do like to play with my watercolors because I like them to do what they want to do. And that's just by me dropping in that color. So that's all I'm doing. I'm not worried about if I'm going to get mud. The colors that I am using, I chose cocoa, I chose moss green, I chose strawberry and dandelion because then that could give me my orange. Because they didn't have an orange because I actually got the orange with the kit for September. Yeah. Purple, Mulled Wine, and Art Print Brown. And again, these will be listed down below. But I really do like them. Now, here's something, and I'm going to show all of this coloring here, but you guys know me. I gab as I do this. So, gab time. So, what's great is I have that palette. Now, that palette that I used is just a plastic palette. I do like a ceramic one better. I couldn't find it. But I do have them. But it's just fine. I mean, you can use that plastic. Now, what's great is I don't like to waste my liquid watercolor, so I only put 2 or 3 drops in from each of these. What's great, they will dry, they will harden, but you can reactivate them with water. So I just keep that off to the side, and you'll probably see me pull it in on a couple videos just to use up what I've taken out. So these will last a very long time. Have I worked with liquid watercolors before? I have. Not so much liquid watercolors, but I do have all of the India inks by P.H. Martin's. I would like to eventually get into his liquid watercolors as well, but for some reason I was very much drawn to these Hero Arts. So, okay, back to my dropping in here. So you can see now, you want to do this with clear water, but it's okay that you can see a tint to it, but that's because of all the other colors that I'm using. And watch that. I just love to watch that go up. Now, this I did speed up just a little bit just to get through it. With the first leaf, I did keep it at, my regular speed. If you find that you're getting too much pigment and you've got it somewhere where you didn't want it, that's why I have my paper towel wrapped around my one finger. I use that if I've got to lift some color that just comes in, or if I have to take some water off of the barrel of my paintbrush. One of the things, when you clean your brush, you put your brush down there and you shake it, and when you come up, you have drops of water along the brush. I will pick those up so that they don't drop down onto my bristles, because they will. It's gravity. It's going to take it over. You can see I went from browns to greens to reds, which then made my oranges to my yellows. Again, we're looking at fall colors. I pulled in a bigger brush. It's one of the Rangers. This, I believe, is a 1/2 inch, just to be able to add more water at once. You can just see how that brown is flowing through, and if you want it darker, just keep adding your pigments. What's great is you can start at each end, and that's what I usually do. I start at each end with this type of an image and let them mold together. Let them create the colors that they will create. Yes, if you mix green and brown, yes, you're going to get more mud. When you look at your color wheels. But if you don't fuss with them too much, if you let these colors do what they're going to do and not force it with your brush or anything like that, you will get some absolutely beautiful shades. They don't look great now, but when they dry, it just evens itself out. So I worked really hard, and it took me a while to say, okay, stop touching it. Remember Mom? My mom used to always tell me that, stop touching that. And I would just look at her and go, why? I know why now. I've learned that. So I just let these dry. Now, when it comes to my watercolors, I do like to let them dry naturally. When you use your heat tool, in my opinion, it will mold them together. If you want a smoother finish, that's when I'll use my heat tool. But if I like to have those blooms and those differences and those spots, I let them dry naturally. Those are the colors that are out right now. I am so hoping that they continue to add to this collection. I am very pleased with these. Again, I have taken out those 3 drops and I haven't need to pull any more back. Now, it's only certain colors, but that just means that eventually I will get a plastic container where that can hold each of my colors, of course. I use the dies because I do have those, and one thing that I do love about Stampendous dies is they go right up to the edge. There is no white border. Don't get me wrong, there's times where I like the white border. I cut for the white border because it's easier, but I think it's great when Stampendous does that. It goes right up to the edges. So I've set those aside, and now I've pulled out one of my card bases. This is the Strathmore 5x7 card bases, and they're watercolor. These are great. I always keep an eye out. They always go on sale once a year where you can get 100 card bases that are already scored and 100 envelopes that go with them, and it's like 25 bucks. So yeah, I always get a couple of those once a year, and I just keep them in my stash. It's funny, when I've looked back at the cards that I've pulled those, it's always watercolor. It may be something on top, but there was always something done with water and a medium that goes on these cards. And what I'm doing is I'm just creating a very faint background directly on my card base, and that's something that I love with these. Again, you can go directly on, or you can just build on top like I did with the leaves, if you don't want to go directly on that, if that makes you nervous. But trust me, beautiful results. I'm using a sentiment from one of my Simon Says stamp sets, and the set is called Thankful Heart. And if I'm not mistaken, and I know somebody will let me know out there, I believe this was part of one of their kits, maybe October a couple years ago, or their autumn a couple years ago. Not sure, but I believe so. So the sentiment I chose, of course, is so much to be thankful for. Used my gold embossing powder as well. And now I'm just placing with the leaves. I know I've got my watercolor background sitting back there. And now I'm just looking, okay, which way do I want these leaves to go? Just playing around with that. I knew the center one was going to be propped up with some foam squares, so got that out of my way. And I'm just going to use my art glitter glue to set down my images. Now, again, so we've got watercolor paper going down on watercolor. That means they're both cold press. The card bases are cold press as well. So there's a lot of texture going on. It would probably be best, and I should have just set something on top of it to make sure that I get a good adherence between the two pieces. But art glitter glue is wonderful to adhere those pieces down as well. Now, of course, remember with art glitter glue, don't have it shipped in the wintertime. They won't ship it. So that's why sometimes you see it go away a little bit because of all of the water content in there. It will be ruined when you receive it. So I'm going to have to, believe it or not, I'm either going to have to get it now or remember. I'm using my Nuvo drops, Morning Dew, to actually give me dewdrops. The best part of this, since it is watercolors, they will pick up those colors, which is great. So they will actually look like dewdrops on my leaves. So that is I'm gently tapping there to level out the drops. Now, quick tip on the Nuvo drops. I had used them in a previous video, and yeah, this one's we're gonna ramble a little bit here, but I had used them in a previous video, and I had made mention that some of mine are getting thick. They are actually thickening up, and sometimes they're not coming out like they did. Very smooth, very dot-like, very enamel dot-like. So I did, and a lot of you had said you were having the same thing. Let me know, let me know. Well, I'm here to let you know. One of the things that I found out when I reached out to their customer service is what they find that works is and I'm going to show this in another video, if you take your palms of your hand and your bottle and rub it in between, as if you're rubbing your hands, have that in between, you're doing two things. You're getting heat to those products, or to the product, and you're shaking it. So by doing that, and only for like 30 seconds, I did mine for a minute because that's what I do. I did find that it did make them work better. If by chance that does not work to your liking, you can contact them and they will replace them. So there's the information that I received. Again, though, I am finding if I put them between my hands and my palms, it's very warm in there. By rubbing back and forth, and I'm rubbing, you can probably hear me. It's actually putting heat into the bottle and making them warm up while you're shaking them at the same time. Again, I did do that with mine, with those that I remembered that were like that, and it is working. So give it a try and let me know. I hope you did enjoy that little tidbit. I hope you enjoyed this video. There's going to be more of these coming. I'm developing a Halloween series, so stay tuned for that, and a Christmas series. Not quite sure what that one's going to be yet, but heads up, I love tags. So stay tuned for those. If you have any questions or comments, leave those down below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. All the products that I did use for this video will be linked down below. But please, if I forget something, because I know I do every time, let me know and I will make sure that you get that link and the video description is updated as well. Hit the thumbs up if you did like this video, and don't forget to subscribe to stay tuned for so much more. I hope everyone's having a great weekend. I hope you're enjoying yourselves, but always remember what is most important. Always be creative.